That's weird.
Does it look like it's live?
Yes, ma'am. It's saying it's live
Okay, great.
because it's showing both of us.
Excellent.
Can we go ahead and get started?
I was trying to start up the presentation.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at my credenza, which looks pretty bad. I didn't realize it looked as messy as it does.
Hello, Dr. Tracy.
Hello, Dr. Winter.
Uh, can you see me now on the screen?
I do. I see you.
All right, excellent. Hello, everyone. All that'll join, welcome to the Bible study, well, book study actually, that we are conducting here at the Gathering of Womanist Church. If you can see my screen, what we're going to be covering today is what matters most. 10 lessons in living passionately from the Song of Solomon by Renita J. Weems. And this week, or actually this month, we are actually going to be covering uh, chapter 9, Sacrifice. And I am the facilitator of this conversation. And welcome, Tracy, for joining and allowing me the opportunity to for us to have conversation together about this chapter in the book.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Uh, I am I am looking at the screen, and we're going to move forward by a quick prayer. Dear God, thank you for this opportunity to share thoughts, inquiries, and perspectives on this book and this chapter. Ashe and Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So for the agenda today, what I am going to do is read from Renita Weems' book of a couple of things just to help us get started or get grounded, if you will. And then I'm going to talk about love costs. She discusses this in the book, Love Costs, and wanted to just to have a quick conversation about some of the things that she shared. One of the topic is we are more than our body would be the second topic I wanted to go over. And then love takes time. And then I just wanted to touch base on things that we might have missed in the chapter. And during this entire time, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Uh, Tracy will assist me as I am going through the various portions of this book in this book study. That's going to be about an hour. And then if you have questions, it may go a little longer. But I just want to review some of the things that I learned or gleaned from Dr. Weems' book. Uh, so, what do you think about the picture over to the right about sacrifice? Uh, so as I was thinking about sacrifice and I was contemplating what to present, I thought about what does it look like to sacrifice as a Black woman? And this image came into my spirit. Jesus sacrificed and Black women sacrifice, albeit differently, but this image came into my spirit that sometimes we give our all and all. And in the context of this book, in this chapter, that's kind of what I got the feeling of. We give our all and all for our community, for our family, sometimes for our corporation and churches that we work for.
Pretty
I
much
think
anybody.
pretty much anybody, yeah. But what's missing in this, when I look at this picture, is we're sacrificing for everybody, but where do we fall as human beings in the midst of this? So we'll get to that part of the conversation as well. What are we doing for ourselves?
Did you share, have you shared an image? Because you were talking about what do you think when you see the image? Or you just, are we like looking in our own minds for what we're picturing?
Do you see the woman on the cross?
No, I see nothing. That's
Uh-oh.
why I just asked you,
Oh, great.
because that's why I was saying, is this something where I thought by the way you said it, you had a picture that was supposed to be being shown, but then I figured it could have just been me.
Ah, no, it's a woman on a cross. Do you see it now? Do you see her now?
I do not. I don't, because and you practiced before and the
Yeah.
shared screen came up and so did you, but now I'm not seeing it, but
You
it's all
don't,
right.
do you see the PowerPoint at all?
I see nothing
Ah, thank you.
except for your beautiful face. That's it. That's all I
I
see.
I appreciate your kindness in that regard. Technical error.
We saw it for a nanosecond. I saw the shared screen and then, oh well, it disappeared again.
How about now?
There you go.
All right, thank you.
There
I
it is.
I appreciate that. So as I was talking about with the screen, there is the I was reading off the agenda for tonight.
Hmm.
Read something from the book, and then love costs. We are more than our body. Love takes time, and what is missing from the chapter. So, what do you think about the? What do you think about the picture, Tracy?
I I can see that. Well, my first thought is that if it wasn't Jesus on the cross, it would have been a Black woman because we are the ones who do the sacrifice, who do the educating, who flip the tables, all of the things that Jesus did before he ended up on that cross is the same stuff that black women do, have done, do now, and will continue to do. And so it makes perfect sense that a Black woman could be portrayed on the cross in the same way, the sacrifice, um, like Jesus. I would not want that to be so all the time, like it is, but it is true. And my other thought would be she looks awfully serene.
Yeah, actually,
The
she has a tear in her eye.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't see that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, she actually has a tear in her eye. So let's get started. Thank you for that feedback. Let's see. Uh, the next, the the one thing I wanted to point out in terms of my reading is that on the very first page it says Put simply, love costs. And that was a telling story as well. Um, some of the other quotes from her book, a reading, if you will, it says, I'm talking here more than making choices. I'm talking about deferring gratification, that is, learning to discipline your desires, postponing some pleasures, and harnessing your passion for the sake of the larger goals or purposes in mind. Our belief in instant satisfaction is the curse of our age. In our society, with an addiction to excess like ours, we may be tempted to close our eyes to this chapter. And I thought that was powerful. That actually intrigued me more to read the book, for her to share that we may be tempted to close this book about talking about sacrifice and what that looked like. And in that context, it provided me with the perspective of, why would we be afraid to interrogate what we've sacrificed for our family, for our churches, for our jobs, for just put dot, dot, dot. What, why would we be afraid to interrogate that or look at it for ourselves? What are we sacrificing and why? And what in some cases? So, with that being said, the very first portion, that when I was reading this, I was like, love costs. What does it look like when we are looking at love costs in the book? And I began to think about it for myself, that loving my family, loving what I do for work, loving what I do for church, sometimes, sometimes can be exhausting. And that is a part of what she talked about as well. Maybe not in those exact words, but sometimes we keep going and going and going like that Energizer bunny. What does that
Yep.
look like? Because we want to invest, we want to help, we want our society, we want our churches, we want our families to succeed. But sometimes it costs us our health, it costs us our time, sometimes it costs us. And so what I begin to think about is, who paid for a love you received, and what was the cost to them? When I thought about this question for myself, I thought about my grandmothers and what they paid spiritually, what they paid physically for me and my cousins and my cousins' cousins, because we're pretty deep. I have a lot of family. And what was the cost to them? And they sacrificed a lot to allow my parents, allow my parents' siblings to be able to live, to be educated, to grow. Um, a lot of times they protected us from things that would have hampered our minds, if you will. They
Mm-hmm.
protected us from uh, people that were abusers, uh, protected us from things that harmed us, if you will. And so, who paid for that love I've received, and what was the cost? In some cases, those costs were their physical, their mental, and even their emotional sanctity, if you will. And so I thought about that as I proceeded to like answer these kinds of questions. And so the pictures on the side is represents community. It represents family. The Holy Spirit is present in these pictures. And when you look at it even a little bit more closer, you'll see a lady that's pregnant there. You'll also see like aunts, grandmothers, sisters, cousins, and community present. I couldn't decide which picture, so I used them both because I thought they were pretty cool.
They both are great pictures, um, showing the interconnectedness of us all, and just thinking about generations too. Like you said, the grandmother, the young girl, I guess the mother and the young pregnant woman, you know, and then all the heart and the dove, signifying love and the Holy Spirit. Um, and all of that, you know, doesn't come without some kind of cost. So I guess I was kind of looking, uh, as soon as I unscrambled my brain when I looked at these questions, um, the idea of what biblical or ancestral images help us to hold both the cost and the sacredness of love. Well, the first thing that popped into my mind was a picture that my family has of my twice great, I think twice great grandparents on my mother's side, and just, you know, the cost that they dealt with, and the fact that they managed to stay together at the, it must have been the middle of the 18th century. Um, Rumor has it that my great great grandmother was a free woman of color who bought her husband and married him, my great great grandfather. Um, so there's the very real monetary costs at that point. But to be able to, I mean, not only that, we could go further back and think about the Middle Passage and the cost that our ancestors had to had to pay. Some of them weren't really willing to pay the cost, and so those were the people that jumped out of the boat or whatever. They were not willing to pay the cost, but somebody had to pay the cost for us to be here. And they paid, physically, like you said, mentally, emotionally. They It cost their labor, it cost their emotional toll, it cost the fact that they had to reconcile themselves with being treated as less than human, and all of that cost them, and they never did see anything for it, but we're reaping the the cost, you know and now it apparently is going to be time for us to start paying.
Yeah, based on current events
Yes,
and the lack of action and by
costs that
some.
we never thought we were going to have to pay because we thought it had already been paid.
Right, right, right. So when you look at that question number two from a biblical or ancestral images, one of the set of characters or story is Ruth and Naomi to me,
Mm-hmm.
for what does it look like for cost and the sacredness of love for her to follow her mother-in-law, instead of going back to her home people after her husband died and after Naomi's uh, husband and
Or
son died, right? So,
yeah, or even the story of Esther, who had to, Hadassah,
mm-hmm,
was that her Jewish name, where she had to, go before the king uncalled, and risk her life to appear to ask for his leniency to her people.
right,
She could have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
right. Hagar and her son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are a myriad of stories, if you will, where there are images that help us see both the cost and the sacredness of love. So I would ask anybody that watches or wants to share in the chat, whether or not it be YouTube, Facebook, or on the app, if you want to share who their a person's name in that regard, feel free to do so. And then we'll definitely be taking a look at that. And if you have any questions as we go along, these are just some questions that I thought of as I was reading, and obviously to the right are some pictorials that represented how I felt as I was going through this particular chapter.
Well,
Um,
I think to like answer in the first question, Carol had put down that her mother worked. She says, my mother worked my way and my sister's ways through college by working for the college. So she worked at the college, and Carol and her sister were able to attend the college. And that's the sacrifice her mother made for them to get their college education,
oh, that's
which
great.
which is amazing.
That is awesome. And I know several, not personally, but I know of several stories where people became professors because they wanted their children to get the good college education by
Mm,
working at some of these colleges in the various roles at the job. It wasn't necessarily only professor, but
hmm
several positions were being held in order to allow their children to attend that college free, if you will. It was a part of their uh, compensation package, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol, for that contribution. So at the bottom, it says, number 5, it says, what interior work must you do before you can offer the love you long to give? And I took a little bit of time to think about this as well. And one of the things I thought about was therapy. So I know some people struggle with going to therapy. And as a result, they fall in love with the same type of people over and over again and suffer some of the same consequences repeatedly. Uh, Whereas in some scenarios, when people go to therapy, they can address why they are attracted to the same type of person that causes them more heartache than the love that they are want to pursue, or even the love they want to give.
hmm
Can you
Well,
think of another interior way?
uh, I mean, therapy therapy would be like the number one answer on Family Feud, I think. Um, name the top three answers on the work you must do before you can offer the love you long to give. You have to learn to love yourself. You know, therapy is part of that. I'm well, I know it is for me. Um, but you must be able to understand your own self, your own humanity, your own strengths and weaknesses, and you have to be able to accept those things in yourself before you can accept them in other people. And
I
that
totally
kind of
agree.
yeah, and that kind of work would help one, I just want to say you, but help one to understand when they are perhaps attracted to or attracting people who are not good for them, because they're more than likely replicating the same bad situations over and over because it's familiar. I would
Yeah, oh,
I would think.
yeah, and the I'm going to say some abusers can see a perceived weakness that they could take advantage of, and so
Mm-hmm.
for you to be aware of the scenario of if you were attracting those kind of people and getting into that kind of space would be a therapist or a self analysis also helps. I spent some time writing in a journal and then going back. So
Mm-hmm.
journaling could also help, going back analyzing what I have experienced, and that could also assist. So that's three things right there. So if anybody else has something else that they would like to share with that, please feel free to put it in one of the chats. So love costs, and sometimes it costs time, sometimes it costs emotion, but I would also say it doesn't have to cost negatively all the time. So we're not trying to paint a negative issue, but it's a scenario of if love costs, recognize what it costs and what are you willing to spend. Go ahead, Tracy. You wanted to say something else?
Um, I did, but now I don't remember what I was gonna say.
It's all good. It may come back to you in a second. I just wanted to point out that it doesn't always have to be a negative. It can be something that you're willing to give. Um, it when you think about love costs, because sometimes I like some of my friends, they wanted to go to the symphony, and I'm like, I don't think that's me, y'all. But to experience that time out with them, to enjoy their presence and how much they love the symphony and things like that, investing that time, investing being in their presence, at the San Francisco Symphony, by the way, it's worth it. So I always think about Pretty Woman when I think about going to the San Francisco area. I think that was the opera though that they were at in that movie, the Pretty Woman.
Yeah, it was the opera.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's the opera that they were at.
yeah,
Um, I actually had been thinking about this line about instant satisfaction, instant gratification, and our, like what the book posits, our, you know, temptation to close our ears to a chapter about sacrifice. And like you were just saying, you sacrificed time that was yours in order to spend time with someone who mattered to you, and you wanted to be with them even though it wasn't something that you necessarily wanted to do. I think a lot of the problem in terms of, maybe romantic love, maybe other types of love, is that we want everything to be how we want it, and we want the other person to do what we want, to be how we want, you know, and we don't necessarily want to have to put up with their stuff. We want them to put up with our stuff, but we don't want to have to put up with their stuff, and we don't want to have to pull them down off the pedestal and realize that they're not necessarily perfect in every single way. They might look a hot mess when they get up in the morning. They might get hangry. They might like stupid shows on TV that I can't stand. And you have to sacrifice putting up with certain things if you want a whole human person, and not like uh what Renita Weems was talking about, her friend who always wants some god or somebody perfect, and the instant that they show that, you know, they're not sending their personal representative anymore, they're just there themselves, and suddenly there's a problem.
yeah.
So we have to sacrifice, but maybe the problem is the word sacrifice has a negative connotation when it doesn't always have to, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Thank you. That's a good observation. So the next thing that I focused in on was a scenario that says we are more than a body. And when I looked at that, there was a portion she Renita Weems has in her book that says, "But we are more than a body. Relationships based solely on physical attraction cannot survive." The body's search for union with another is symbolic of the soul's search for oneness with God. Be careful that be careful that that search for God does not take a back seat once the libido is aroused. Excuse me. Timing is everything, says the Shulamite, agreeing with the writer of Ecclesiastes. Everything has an appropriate season. What do you think about that?
That everything has an appropriate season.
We are more than a body.
Oh, well, yeah. Um, Absolutely more than a body, even though society seems to reduce us to our bodies and the way they look, and that they should be beautiful and perfect no matter what. And our labor, we're more than our body and our labor. I would add that. Our production, we're more than that. That's why we're always having to tell ourselves that God finds us worthy just because we're made in God's image, when we always think that we have to be performing. But we are our spirits, we are our brains, how we think, how we how emotional we are or not. you know I'm more than my body. I am a sensitive person. I am a nerd. I am somebody who has likes and loves outside of what my body is. And that's the one thing that we need to remember as well with people who are differently abled. We look at their body and see what they may not be able to do, and don't realize that there is so much more to a person than what they are physically like. And I'm saying this out loud to myself, so that I know it, because it's almost instinctive in a place that places such a premium on the physical and the looks, that when you see somebody who doesn't fit what is beautiful or whatever, it's hard to imagine them having a whole life and a whole personality and everything, because all you see is someone in a wheelchair
Right. Right.
or something like that.
Yeah. And so in my family, we do have several individuals that have had challenges, including my brother. Uh, but one of the things about my brother is that he was strong, and one of the things he loved to do was play dominoes and just have a good time. But when
Mm-hmm.
it came time for working and things of that nature, he gave it his all, whether or not it was just to move chairs or to cut yards or whatever it was that he was doing. He had the willingness, the commitment to want to make a difference, of which he did do. He's now deceased, but he was more than his body. He had a limp because of an accident when he was a baby, but uh, he was very much productive and uh, and loved. And I have several other cousins who are in similar scenarios, that they were challenged, but they were more than their body. We all would have fun when we would be hanging out and doing different things. So as a family, uh, whether or not it'd be eaten. We didn't throw too many snowballs or anything like that because it wasn't too much snow down in the Houston area. but we had fun doing other stuff, attempting to play baseball or things like that in the yard. So that just, you're right. And humor, and they loved with all of their heart. And so
Mm-hmm.
to give them, to acknowledge who they were, regardless of their physical challenges, is worthy. It's necessary, actually. So we're more than our bodies. So one of the things that questions I had here is, share how lust, passion, and love lead to sacrificing something in your life. And I thought about this on a couple of different levels. One of the things that I thought about was around uh, love specifically, and it's love of family. And sometimes some people want their family to love them, so they'll sacrifice their time. They'll
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice part of the time is like, they may love Tracy, they may love your cooking. So you spend all your
Oh
time
no,
in you may spend all your time in the kitchen.
I've done
Or
that.
I had a couple of aunts and my mother a little bit what that loved to sew. And so they would sacrifice because they would make homemade uh, clothes that looked like it came out of J.C. Penney or came out of Nordstrom's. Uh,
Wow.
my cousins would come home and say, "Hey, mom, they're doing this. Superfly is wearing this in the movies." And one of my great aunts would go and go to the store, find the pattern, or just make it up. And the next, within the next week or two, they were wearing those clothes to school, to high school, and things of that nature. Um, so that could impact you too, because from a if they were seamstress, which they were, how much time did it take to do that? So something they may have wanted to personally do, they were not able to spend time on because they were worried about how their children were looked at school, because they didn't have the monies, if you will, to go to a Nordstrom's or Macy's to buy things like that. But they again invested in their children.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know in terms of, you know, romantic and platonic love, how it can make you sacrifice. Um, I mean, just thinking about the idea that I would have a feeling with, a boyfriend or whatever, that I wasn't being respected, and I would sacrifice like my self-respect or, my boundaries. Like if I try and enforce these boundaries, or if I try and speak up when I feel like I've been disrespected, then he's gonna be mad at me, and then he's gonna break up with me and won't want to be. I know it sounds dumb, but it it would be like that. Or even like if it's somebody I care about, like, when my kids were small and they were always forgetting their homework or forgetting this or forgetting that, and I would be taking things to them at school knowing that the lesson should have been, if you don't bring it, you don't have it. But I would sacrifice my time and go up there just because I love my children and I don't want them to have to experience consequences. So I take on the consequences. And those are some hard lessons to have learned in therapy, um, because what that does, I've had to realize, is that sacrifice, sure, it serves them, but I must be needing it for a reason too,
Well,
you know.
sometimes us needing it, and that includes me too, is because we want to be affirmed or liked or
Mm-hmm.
loved, and so we will
Exactly.
forego what we know is the correct boundary to
Mm-hmm.
receive that affirmation from
Exactly.
our children, our spouse, our coworker, bosses, etc. There was a time in my life, um, and I loved my job. I did. And so I made some serious sacrifices for my body, where I would work. I think I worked 90 hours a week for like a year.
Oh my
Now
Lord.
that's, yeah. And so, yes, it did put me in the hospital. Yes, I would get out and go right back, not understanding that it was just too much. So when I left that particular position, uh, they replaced me with five people.
That is crazy.
That is asinine.
Five
And
people?
five. 5. Yeah. And so that's why we have to recognize for ourselves our value and our worth, and to understand there is no way in the world I should have been working 90 hours a week on a regular basis.
Well, thank the Lord you're still with us.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was put in the hospital once, and then the doctor told me that if I didn't stop what I was doing, I would have. She would put me in the hospital again,
Oh,
and but
wow.
then it would be required, like on lockdown for sure. So obviously, again, my passion for what it was I was doing on my job was a scenario of I'm going to call it like, they taking advantage of my intellect and how I was getting things done. But I had to then recognize, hey, this job is not healthy for me. And I literally, when I left that particular position, I started playing golf like every other day. And instead of, I would work the 40 hours and then just take off and go play golf. So to get myself back more centered, to say there's more to life than working on this in this particular position.
And that reminds me again of the Black woman on the cross, sacrificing. Like you just said, you poured out of everything that you had to offer. And then when it became like a matter of life and death, that you had to get away from that, you know, it's like your company let you do that. And then when you left, they knew they was wrong. That's why they hired 5 people to replace you. They knew they was wrong, and they would have let you keep on doing it as long as you were going to keep on doing it, because it meant that they just had to pay you. Now, when you left, again, if they could have gotten another person to do everything that you did, they probably would have, but they realized they couldn't.
Right, right. So again, when you think about the love, uh, and for me, loving my job and what I was doing, I sacrificed uh, a lot. I'll drop it right there. In terms of relationships, family, even church. So going going working 90 hours a week, there wasn't much time for me to go to church.
And the painful thing about that is that that kind of dedication and sacrifice, especially to something like a company or a job or whatever, is not reciprocated.
No.
And that is what is particularly painful. Because I mean, I remember, I've had jobs where I have felt loyal, like I gotta be here and somebody's counting on me and yada yada yada. And then like once I did that for a position, and then like 6 months later I came to work and I didn't have no hours on the schedule, and I was like, what's happening? Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't do anything wrong, but today is your last day.
Mm,
And, of course, this was like a retail job, and, sales are down. So we're letting people off, and you don't have enough availability, meaning I wasn't waiting by the phone for them to call me into work on my days off. But I say that to say that, I stayed long past when I wanted to because they asked me. And, I call myself being a team person and sacrificing. And it doesn't, you know, it's bad enough when it's like that. But of course, you have people that treat you the same way, you know, and that's why because I'm looking at this other question: what inner work or healing does my soul ask of me right now to acknowledge and understand that I am more than my body? Well, first of all, we do need to take care of our bodies. But second of all, we do need to take care of our hearts, our minds, our spirits. We need to nourish all of those things as much, if not more. Um, And so, like you said, you were doing so much, you weren't even able to go to church or do anything else. You were not nourishing the parts of you that weren't your body. Not only were you doing your body a disservice, you were doing every other part of you a disservice.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah. So just to delve into the pictures a little to the right that you're looking at, um, the lady at the top, you could perceive that yourself. But one of the other thing, like looking at yourself and doing self work and things of that nature. Um, and the picture at the bottom, uh, let me see if I can get the cursor over there. This picture here is like a sister.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of sisters. I got one left now, but talking and dealing with your sister, because sometimes they can help ground you to help you understand you're more than your body and how much you're loved and respected and things of that nature. This lady here is the mother, and if you have your mother in your life or a mother figure, I'll use that terminology,
Mm-hmm.
somebody to support you, a mentor, if you want to look at it that way. And then same thing down here. This one here, I had this be a grandmother or somebody who could mentor you as well. So those two pictures are, you could say they're family, but you could also say they're non-family.
Chosen family.
Chosen family. That's correct. And then the lady down here is like a girlfriend. So I said, this is here is your
Yeah.
sister, and then this one's a
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend. You can pick up the phone and call at any time. I had a time in my life where I needed to talk to people at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just because I was going through something, and some of my friends were like, no. Yeah, but then there were some friends that were like, "Yep, winner. What do you? I'll listen. I might snore on you, but I'm gonna listen."
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think about this, people in your life can help ground you to help you understand you're more than your body. And sometimes that reaching out, it could be a therapist, when you think about one of these pictures, but sometimes friends and family and girlfriends. And if you're a guy watching this, then it could be your guy friends as well. So, or siblings, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the last question here I had is name aloud one ancestor or elder and one gift they passed down to help you remember you are more than your body. And I'd say for sure that would be my mom, because we would play like games, like Scrabble, if you will, spelling words and things like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Going fishing. That was one of her favorite relaxing things that allowed us to commune together, if you will, and not worry so much about physical things necessarily, but it just allowed us to connect in conversation. Tracy, like me and you are doing right now, just connecting. It's not necessarily about our bodies as much as it is our groundedness in this topic, in this book study.
I am going to take a sidebar and ask you very earnestly, what is relaxing about fishing? Because people always say it's relaxing, and I'm like, I mean, I just I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. So in response to your sidebar, uh, we would go fishing in the early wee hours of the morning. Um, uh, say 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and in the middle of the summer, uh, it's hot, 90, 100 degrees in Houston, Texas, growing up. So, um, but the calmness of the water, a lot of people enjoy just being near the water, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and, and fishing. Part of fishing anyway is waiting patiently for something to get on that little hook, if you will. be a little hook, but a hook. My dad actually caught a whale one time.
Oh, wow.
So, um, and a part of that, being out in nature, they weren't in a building, they weren't running from here to there. That calmness of the water, that calmness of just being out there to watch the sunrise or to um, feel the breeze off of the. My parents would do. My parents would do saltwater fishing and freshwater fishing. So in either scenario, it when they came home, they were much more relaxed than when they had left. So
Okay.
it's that connecting with nature.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
I always think about the worm, how I don't want to put no worm on a hook. I might find the rest of that part okay, but
Well,
I'm not down.
you
I'm
just
not
have to
down with
put
the worms.
you have to you have to have somebody else put the worm on for you. But they also have these what they call them lures, and so they were just fake worms
Mm-hmm.
or fake fish. And so actually, I still have my fishing gear here. I haven't been in a long time, but my fishing
Yeah.
pole and the gear. Anyway, let's move back.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's all good. Again, more than the body, right? So that takes you takes you away, and definitely took my parents away from the hard labor and things of that nature that they had to go through.
I think if I'm thinking about anybody, most often lately it's my dad. Um, because my dad he was like Mensa smart, skip grades in school, all kinds of stuff. Although he never graduated from college, it was because he couldn't afford it. Um, but he was in the military, and I found out, much later, that he had been a teacher, that he wrote curriculum for the military, that, all of this like nerdy, brainy stuff I get from him. And it's funny that I did not realize how much like brains. I struggle with the way to say that without sounding like Tony Stark. Um, but just the fact that me and him had a lot of the same, you know, things about. I could talk to him like about politics or stuff going on in the world or stuff, and he would know it and be interested in talking about it. So that's where I get that kind of stuff from within my family. And Lord knows it's pretty much just me and him, because now I can hear people's eyes glazing over when I try and talk about stuff that I used to talk about with him. But in that instance, it also showed that it was his mind that that I share with him, the fact that we both had a life of the mind, and that is a gift, that curiosity, that intelligence, that I didn't even embrace until he was an ancestor. And I'm really sorry that I was not feeling about it then like I am now, because I didn't understand him a lot, because he was so smart and he didn't have patience for somebody he didn't think was smart. So, you know, but yeah, I he helps me. Thinking about that helps me to remember, especially when I want to look at my physical body and acknowledge everything that I can't stand about it, what I think is wrong, to realize that it doesn't, that's not the whole, that's not the totality of who any of us are. And if we really are trying to be in relationship with people, that's the reason why a lot of the time it doesn't work out, is because we're not focusing on the right things. You have to focus on the mind, the spirit, the sense of humor, um, all of those different things. Or it doesn't matter if, you know, like a cisgender couple look like, you know, Aphrodite And Adonis is not going to keep working because at some point something is going to happen and folks ain't going to look as perfect as they did when you met them,
Right,
you know. And
right.
if you ain't got nothing else to hold on to.
Which is the point that Renita Weems was making when she talked
Mm-hmm.
about the Shulamite woman. And the
Yeah.
Shulamite woman was trying to tell people, "Hey, it's more than your body. It's in Renita Weems' book, and it's in the Bible, in Song of Solomon, that it's more than your body. You have to look at the totality of the individual, and and who they are and what they are about."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's hit this. I'm going to call it the last major slide, and I obviously have a lot more. It's about to be the top of the hour, and what I have here is that love takes time. And so in the book, it says finally the Shulamite's warning to Jerusalem's daughters throughout Song of Solomon reminds us that love takes time. It takes time to see people for who they really are instead of gods we invented in our minds. Our feisty, headstrong maiden isn't telling you and me anything we don't know already. But it's difficult to hear her warning when you're in the throes of a new romance. Who wants to hear, slow down? What you're looking for quite possibly can't be found. And I read that in the book, and the first thing I thought about is this kind of off base, but it's like you actually might be kissing a frog.
Mm-hmm.
you you don't know it yet, but love takes time. You have to go through like all of the seasons. Uh, a season of disappointment. What happens? Uh, uh, or you talked about hangry a little bit ago, and
Yep.
yeah, I have that hangry thing. That Snickers commercial was so real for me.
You're not you when you're hungry.
I'm not me when I'm hungry. That's right. So, but when you go through the seasons of loss, seasons of disappointment, seasons of jubilation, do they go off and celebrate by themselves, or do they take you with them? Because they want to be with their boys or girls or whomever it is. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
are you only convenient for physical activities? And how do you know that? Because a lot of times, and I'm being very specific how I'm saying this, a lot of times it takes a year, maybe 2 years before you see it all and figure it out. Is this somebody who you actually want to be with? God bless those people that can figure it out in 3 days and they get married and have the next 67 years. That's great. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use the word, it's not normal. And so what's more normal is taking time and learning what that they like gospel music, or they like country music, or they like symphonies or operas and things of that nature, and that's where it's going to make them more comfortable. Or they like to write, or they like to get up at 6 a.m. In my case it's 4 right now anyway, a.m. and convene with God. Or do they stay up after 10 o'clock? I'm toast. Yeah, it's not a good idea to have an intellectual conversation with me if I'm anywhere near my bed. But love takes time.
Well, what I found very what stood out to me was when she talks about um, slow down, don't lose your head. She warns women, don't lose yourself because you're likely to need her one day. And I was like, that was deep. Don't lose yourself because first of all, at least for me, that was always pretty easy to do. was to lose myself, to subsume myself into whoever I was with, because I just wanted to be whatever they wanted me to be. And to have done that so long that, you literally don't know yourself. And I think that's the point that she was making. Don't lose yourself, because at some point you're going to need her. I mean, like, even now, um, you know, I had somebody ask a question about what are your favorite things to do, or something banal like that. And I couldn't even say, because it's like, I don't even know. Or like Ebony Janice asked in her book, like, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this work of, freedom working or civil rights or racial justice or whatever? What would you be doing? It's like, I don't even know, because you're so used to not doing what you want to do that it's hard to know what you want to do. And that's part of yourself, more than your body. That's your mind, that's your spirit, that's the things that tickle your fancy, you know and you have to know yourself in order to know those things. And I realize now that, so much of the time I didn't have a choice, I didn't have a say, or I get not I'm not going to put it like that. I gave up my choice and my say willingly at the altar of love or lust or passion or whatever the heck you want to call it. But it was easy to do because I was not that invested in myself, if that makes sense.
Definitely does. And so as a result of that, I think sometimes that is a learned behavior. So who taught you that love could wait? And what did their patience look like?
Hmm. Good questions all. Oh, those could all take an hour right there.
Well, I'm gonna leave it up so people can take a screenshot of it. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
we're after the top of the hour, but
Yeah.
uh, I, I can say right now that based on my personal experiences, that's what taught me that love could wait. Because when I jumped into some relationships that I found out were not healthy for me, I made a commitment to myself. I don't need to rush into anything that's going to, or any relationship, even job, that's going to take away from my worth or my value. And
Mm-hmm.
love takes time because you want to, I'll say it this way. I was in a scenario where I wanted to pursue something very important in my life. I mean, it was like number one. I was spending all my time there. And then I got in a relationship and found out that the individual didn't value what I wanted to pursue, nor
Mm.
wanted to uplift me, nor wanted to encourage me. So I was thinking that this love isn't healthy because it's not an equal investment, or they didn't care about the things I cared about, which included me.
Mm-hmm.
So if they weren't encouraging me, uplifting me, saying, "Hey, you need to study. Hey, you need to write. You need to da da da." And I don't mean every day or anything like that, but just on the occasion of where I might have needed the encouragement because I wasn't doing it or whatever. I didn't get that support or uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna have to say right now that I learned it as a result of my personal experiences.
Well, that's a good thing. Some of us just make the same mistakes over and over again without learning. So the fact that that's good that you were able to take those kind of experiences and move forward knowing what works and what doesn't work. Um, I'm trying to think, when has love asked you to grow before it could arrive? I don't know, because I've never really had, well, I have no patience. Let's just put it that way. I'm all about the instant gratification. I know it about myself, and that's something that, God ain't finished with me yet. But the question, share how you knew that the love you were experiencing was real between you and your partner. Hmm. I think that's a ongoing realization, you know, but I do think that now, understanding everything that goes on in our lives, I know it's more, I feel it more real now than 30 years ago, you know, um, because of all of the things that have happened. You know, my husband would say that, like, when he lost his job and I stayed with him, because I know that's probably dumb because it says in the vows, for better or for worse, you know, um, and but I say that to say it didn't occur to me to leave because something bad had happened. That that's how, I knew, because it could have been just as easy to pack up and leave, because that was during, was that 2008, that whole economic
Yes.
downturn, everything was going crazy, and they had people on the news every day who had lost their jobs and all of that. But I know the love between us is real because of all of the things that would have made it easy enough to just walk away. And, you know, both of us are still here. And so I have to believe that that's because there's something real there, you know, and I'm not willing to throw things away when it gets bad at this point, you know. Maybe, yeah, that's probably more than anybody needed to hear. So,
Well, I think you make a very good point. You both have survived the challenges of life.
mm-hmm,
And so, like the vow said, right, for better or for worse. And so those
mm-hmm,
ups and downs that you kind of go through, um,
mm-hmm.
some people don't survive. Some people don't survive. So sharing that you knew that the love you were experiencing was real. One of the questions I had when I wrote this was, how do you define real, right?
Mm-hmm.
how,
That's,
how do you
yeah,
define,
exactly.
yeah, how do you define real? In your case, and I'm putting words into your mouth, the realness of some of life's challenges, loss of job, having children, um, hangry.
Yeah.
some
Well, that's
some of
him.
those,
That's not me.
but in some of those scenarios, you learn about those things, and you're right. Every day you get to make a choice, stay or go. Snoring takes people out sometimes, right?
Yes.
You can't stay in the same bedroom. You gotta, some people, I'm not saying everybody, I'm not saying you, I'm not pointing to you, I'm just saying in general, that takes people out sometimes. And so define real, and then also what's real for you may not be real for your partner. So
Absolutely.
it's a work in progress. Again, I like the whole thing around love takes time, and Some people are very close to their parents. Some people are very close to their siblings, right? So you find that stuff out over time. You don't find it out necessarily in 3 days. So that's I keep coming back to that.
I feel like there was a couple of songs called Love Takes Time.
You might have to
I'm
look
sure
them
there
up.
was.
Yeah, you might have to look them up and put them in the chat. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know them by heart. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide, and I um, just wanted to share other things to look at and consider as I read this chapter, and I thought that these questions could add value to this particular chapter. What might holy boundaries look like for you right now?
Hmm.
Uh, what does resurrection, renewal of your mind, body, and spirit mean for you personally? When have you felt guilty for resting, saying no, or prioritizing yourself? So these questions in general apply to sacrifice, which was this particular chapter. And as you contemplate this session that we had today, think about these questions. And I would say, encourage you to answer them for yourselves. What does holy boundaries look like for you right now? And that's one. And then the other one is, whenever you have felt guilty for resting, saying no, or prioritizing yourself. And I'm gonna answer that one. Sometimes for me, I have felt guilty for resting, saying no, or prioritizing myself when I know that my family is going through something, and I make a choice to not be there for them. And some of that is for them to mature, and some of that is to allow me the opportunity to understand I'm not always going to be able to be there for them. They need the opportunity to mature and resolve or solve things for themselves. Um, I'll say it like this, I can't always be the person rescuing them. Somebody, they got to figure out how to rescue themselves. So I may feel guilty in terms of saying no in that context. Or when I prioritize myself and say, well, I'm going on vacation in Atlanta. I don't know what y'all going to do, but I'm going to Atlanta for vacation. And so, uh, do I feel guilty about it? Yeah, sometimes. But then, then I always remind myself, I'm not going to always be here. I'm just not. That's not the way it works, right? So
That's true. And it's kind of humbling on some level to realize, because I've had to start telling myself that, like if I if I do something that's good for me, well, first of all, it's a it's like there's a zero sum thing, some game going on in some instance of that. Like if I'm doing something for myself, that means I'm not doing it for you. Good for me, bad for you. And it's not even necessarily always like that. It's just a matter of, just because I'm prioritizing me is not me saying that you're not worth my time or my priority. It's just an instance of having to put on your oxygen mask first because you have to. You have to do that. And I mean, as far as when have you felt guilty for resting, saying no, or prioritizing yourself, I'll take all the time for 1,000, Alex, um, because that that happens a lot. And it kind of makes me look back up at holy boundaries. I'm very intrigued by calling it holy boundaries because the first thing that popped up into my mind was secular boundaries. after I read Holy Boundaries. And then I'm having an argument with myself. This is why we have that sacred secular dichotomy that we do not need to have. You know, holy boundaries is any kind of boundary that you want to put up, I think. That's what I'm getting from that. I know holy is like set apart or whatever. So holy boundaries means that we have to, at certain times, there are things that we have to set ourselves apart from, separate ourselves from. Um, and when we have those holy boundaries, we should not feel guilty for resting, for saying no, or for prioritizing ourselves, because those things are what boundaries are all about, you know. So that would basically be like me feeling guilty for setting boundaries, which I tend to do, is feel guilty when I want to say, look, I'm gonna need you to take 6 steps back, and give me some distance. I need time by myself. I need whatever. And we, as Black women, typically on the cross, we are programmed almost to feel guilty and to conflate self-care with selfishness. And it's not. And that's why we end up on the cross,
Yeah.
because we're always doing that.
Yeah. Well, I think that is a great place to allow you all that are watching on Facebook, the app, and YouTube to answer that question. I'm going to show the last slide. And again, I could not decide between these two pictures, so I put them both up. Uh, uh, this one is all about community and children, if you look real close.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Holy Spirit as well. This is a picture of what sacrifice looks like as a Black or brown person. And then to the right, I don't know if you could tell, but that's actually water. This is obviously an
Oh,
outfit, but this down here is water.
okay.
Uh, and so we're actually having an event tomorrow. Uh,
That was a good
uh,
segue. That was good.
now you done lost me.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're actually having an event tomorrow that you can sign up for. That's being led by Natasha uh, Legalese Robinson. It is about water and baptism and what does it mean from a womanist. I believe that she's got the word womanist perspective.
Mhm.
She's doing this project as a result of her getting her MDiv. So if you could join us tomorrow night, sign up, register. Yeah, it is through a registration scenario. That would be awesome. And she's looking for us to hear what she has to say and potentially provide her some feedback so she can complete her degree. So I just want to say thank you all for joining and taking the time to listen to Sacrifice. And Tracy, thank you for being a partner in conversation tonight. You definitely helped me out, and I really do
Thank
appreciate it.
you for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. I did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.
Take care. So that was it.
Yeah, let me end this.